Today we're slicing fish for sashimi, nigiri, crudo, and solving the problem of chewy, stringy fish. Before we get started, here's a disclaimer. My restaurant training is limited to European cuisines. If I never worked as a sushi chef, what business do I have in teaching raw fish techniques? After spending many hours observing sushi chefs in Tokyo restaurants, I've learned a lot that I can share. But unlike most sushi chefs, I can explain what I do in detail and in English. We'll be working with Arctic char, salmon, and tuna today. Our first step is to remove the skin. Place the fish with the tail to the left, close to the edge of the board so that the handle of your boning knife can hang off the board. Insert the knife at the tail. Grab the flap of skin you just created and pull the skin to the left while your knife cuts to the right. If you're left-handed, do a mirror image of everything I do in this video. Cut the tail off and save either for cooking or making a tartare. It has too much connective tissue to taste good sliced. You see this white line running down the middle of the fish? This area is unpleasantly chewy when served raw and is best saved for cooking. On one side of this white line you have the belly. Here it is. Let me remove this membrane from it. Now let's cut this chewy white line out and save it for cooking. Behind it is a strip of good flesh before we hit the row of pin bones. I don't like to remove pin bones with tweezers since that often rips the flesh of the fish. I simply cut them out. Here's my nice block of usable flesh. If you feel your knife crunching through something, it means you're cutting through bone and need to change the angle of your knife slightly. Here is the row of those pesky pin bones. The middle piece has the brown strip of bloodline going through it. I don't like the way it tastes raw and prefer to remove it. These blocks of fish are called saku blocks. They conveniently divide the fish into sections based on the direction of the grain and eliminate all the undesirable parts of the fish. Let me address your concerns about the waste of fish. The reason the other videos don't look wasteful is because they start with saku blocks and don't show you how they got there. And besides, the parts that I cut off won't be discarded, they'll be cooked. On salmon, this procedure looks very similar. Belly off, find the row of bones, there they are, and cut them out. Remove a strip of chewy tissue from the center of fillet. Then remove the bloodline. One big difference between salmon and char is that the thickest part of salmon is huge and has the grain going in all different directions. I like to portion it into 2 blocks to make slicing easier. For the next part of the video, we'll switch to a one-sided Japanese blade. It's not absolutely necessary, but it will produce cleaner cuts. The question you should be asking yourself is how much should I spend on a one-sided knife and how should I sharpen it? I'm very good at sharpening and honing two-sided knives, but in spite of a lot of practice, I'm yet to produce a one-sided edge that will hold. So here's a solution that works well for me. Buy an inexpensive one-sided knife. This one is available on Amazon for about $30. I'll link to it below the video. Don't hone it, don't sharpen it, only use it for slicing fish and then carefully store it in the original packaging or a knife guard. Yeah, eventually you might need a new knife, but $30 is less than I spent on my fish. We'll start with a piece of tuna. As a right-handed cook, I slice vegetables from right to left, but for raw fish, I need to do the opposite. I prefer to place my fish on a diagonal. Then apply pressure on the left of the fish. Place the back of the knife onto the fish and drag it towards you. It's very important to start in the back of the knife so that you can finish the cut in one swipe. If you cut back and forth, you'll have jagged pieces of fish. If you are left-handed, apply pressure with your right hand on the right of the fish and slice right to left. Save your end pieces for tartare or rolls. What this technique gives you is a nicely tapered piece. This shape is particularly important for making nigiri. Now that we got the basic knife motion down, let's concentrate on the orientation of the fish. You see the direction of the grain in this piece of salmon belly? Each one of these flakes is lined with chewy connective tissue. To avoid chewy stringy fish, I need to cut perpendicular to the grain. I also want to tilt my knife when handling thin blocks of fish. This will give me wider, more tapered pieces. Don't forget to put pressure on the fish with your fingertips. This prevents the fish from moving and gives you even thickness. And remember to start in the back of the knife. Lots to remember, I know. But keep in mind that practice makes perfect. Here is the thickest part of the fillet. Finding a good orientation for it is not as easy as for the belly, since the grain zigzags here a bit. But you can always try different directions to see what works best. This thin piece is easy peasy, since the grain is all in the same direction. All we need to do is cut at a shallow angle. And here is the triangular piece from the back. This one has a lot of zigzagging, so I need to pick my battles. Most of this procedure is the same on char. The belly, the middle strip. The biggest challenge is the same as with salmon, the thick back strip where the grain doesn't go in one direction. Try different positions to see which way will result in the shortest white lines. The shorter the white lines, the less stringy the texture. Now that we have all this fish, let's make a chirashi bowl. To make the flour, make an overlapping line of slices. 5 to 6 is plenty. Start with the first slice that you put down and roll up to the last slice that you put down. Set it into a bowl of sushi rice and add a few more slices to resemble leaves for your flour. I didn't have any shiso on hand, so I decorated with some Thai basil leaves and julienne scallions. That's pretty awesome looking, even if I say so myself. And it tastes even better than it looks. Want to know how to shape nigiri? Then join me next week. Just don't forget to subscribe to Helen's Kitchen channel so that you don't miss that video. And if you're ever in the Boston area, maybe I'll see you in one of my classes.